What's up, everybody? So it is time for you and I, or is it you and me? Okay, I'm gonna just stick with you and I to set up our budget categories for our sinking funds. So if you're interested in learning what my budget categories are and perhaps get some inspiration for yourself, then grab a cup of whatever. I'm gonna do the same and let's get into it. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Nichelle and I am striving to live my best life responsibly. I gave a more in-depth video about my goals and discovering my why, etc. in my previous video. But go check it out now. Let's get through this video. But I will leave the information to that video in the description box below. Also, for a little housekeeping here, I have my husband 12.9 iPad Pro. I'm also using a dupe to the iPad pencil. I had it for a couple of months. It's been working out great for me. So if you're interested in looking the information or purchasing this pencil, I will link the site for this in the description box below. I got it right off of Amazon. Also, as I said in my previous video, please do not let the lack of digital equipment prohibit you or discourage you from moving on or moving forward with your budgeting journey. I perhaps doing this on the digital equipment, but this can be done on pen and paper. All right. And also, if you're interested in getting this sheet, I got this from the Budget Mom. She also has a YouTube channel here and a plethora of free resources on her website. So I will leave all of that in the description box below if you are interested. And my refreshment for today is coffee, folks. Yes, it's that type of day. All right, so moving right along. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's fill out this sheet. Just FYI, my sinking funds or budget category is not a lot. It's definitely going to be scaled down. However, hopefully in the future, I can add more to this category, but right now, this is where my funds lie. So being realistic with myself, this is where I am. So you'll see that coming up. Also, I am going to put a little reference key here, and it's going to be color coded with the highlighters, the basic highlighter function here. And my reference key is going to include rotational. And rotational simply means is a category that do not have a goal in mind, and is also fluctuate as far as spending is concerned. An example would be like a bills kind of category. That will consider like a rotational type category for me. Also, I'm going to have a funded category or funded highlighter category. And that's simply just going to mean a category that is funded right now, that do have a goal amount. It might not necessarily have reached that goal, but it does have a goal amount. And my last category is going to be a non-funded type category, if you will. And that's simply just going to mean that it's a wish list category. It's something that I would like to do or fund in the near future. But right now, my main category is funded and rotational. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and speed through this reference key. But I just wanted to give you an overview about what I'm doing. So next up, we are going to fill out start with our rotational budget category. And mainly, to be honest, most of my categories right now is rotational until I can build up to the point where I have funded and non-funded. But I still do have those categories, but mainly my categories right now is rotational. So I'm going to go ahead and fill this top category out, and I'm going to speed through this, have a little music, and especially if we're doing this together, so you can see how it goes. the budget categories is where you can become more customizable. I mean, you could customize this however, but you can be more descriptive about what fits under each category. And I recommend, if you have a family like mine, you guys have an agreement that this is where these information actually lies under. So for me, or for my household, bills would be considered rent, insurance, car notes, light, gas, phone bill, etc. So I'm gonna go ahead and fill that out. And again, I'm gonna speed through this, add a little music, and I'll be back as I fill out the rest. All right, so next up in the list is debt. So my current debt right now is student loans, credit cards, and cars. Now, some may argue that cars is not a debt, it's an asset, but right now it's a debt to me because I have to pay for it every month. So I'm gonna go ahead and write that down. And again, I'm gonna speed it up as I do. All right, and next up for me is personal. And personal is personal to self. So for me, personal would include hair, nails, skincare, etc. So I'm gonna go ahead and complete this and speed up as I go. All right, so moving right along, I have what the category which is considered the boys' weekend. And if you got a chance to look at my last video, then you would know that it's really important for me to set aside some sort of budget because we like to do things as a family on a weekend, creating memories. And that doesn't necessarily always have to cost in fact, I try not to have it cost all the time because there are a ton of free things that you can do to create memories. But I still like to set aside the budget just so I won't feel limited. So I'm just gonna go ahead and complete this. All right, so next up on the list is I have sports. So my boys are very athletic. They like to involve themselves, or I like to involve them as well, into different sports activities. So again, I don't want to be kind of caught off guard. So I try to set aside, or I'm going to try to set aside a budget for this category. And again, that can include basketball, baseball, whatever. So I'm just going to go ahead and just complete this. All right. And last but not least, and I forgot to include this, will be subscriptions. I consider this as rotational too because I really don't have a set amount. But I do have subscriptions right now, so I'm gonna go ahead and fill this out too. So I'm gonna speed through it. All right, so moving on to the funded categories. So one of the categories that I consider as funded is like family vacation, birthdays, medical expenses, and that can vary. Right now is more rotational for me because we try to do our doctor's appointments, etc. at the beginning of the year. But I do have a goal amount, definitely our deductible for my insurance. So it's kind of half and half. It's kind of funded versus, rotational. But I'm going to go ahead and fill out my funded categories and I'll speed through and so you can watch. All right, so under family vacay, it's pretty much self-explanatory, but that could just include like gifts, kind of activities, hotel, plane, etc. All right, so that's family vacations, birthdays, boys, mine, husband, and family. All right, and that can look, again, customizable to how it fits for your family. And for medical, I would include copays, we do have a puppy, so I do include this under some people would separate the two, but I don't want to get overwhelmed. So I'm just going to include that here under medical for the groomers and whatnot. And that's pretty much it for medical. It's mainly copay and groomers. All right, savings. All right, and just real quick, I have under savings, I have emergency fund, short and long term, and I'll get more into that in later videos. I do have what I call emergency travel. My family is not here, they're in another state. So in the event that something happens, unfortunately, hopefully not, but life happens, like I said, I'm not caught off guard. I'm able to, travel if need be. All right, and then homeschool. All right, so I think that wraps up all of my funded categories. So I'm gonna move on to my wish list categories, and I'll speed through it once again and just go over it at the end. Okay, so for my wish list is holidays. I definitely want to put aside money for the holidays that come year round. So I definitely want to be more prepared for that. Random expenses happen. Anything could come up, and I don't want to necessarily take it out of short term or long term. It's just something like a random expense. I do want to have that funded. Investments. I do have an investment through my job, but I do want to dab into other investments in the future. But right now, primarily, I'm focused on debt payoff and getting my finances more stabilized. And last but not least, I want to have a car maintenance fund. My cars are relatively new. However, again, things happen and tires need to be changed and whatnot. So I definitely want to not be caught off guard and just have something prepared just in case. And right now I'm going to speed through and just fill out, the categories. So this is descriptive information underneath. So I think that about do it for me and filling out this sheet in these categories. Hopefully you got some inspiration from this. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to give me a big like if you enjoyed this video. Also, don't forget to hit that little bell so you can be notified when I upload another video. And yeah, so you guys have a pleasant day, and bye for now.